So now we just finished processing a few invoices. Now we're going to move over to the payment workflow. And this is going to be our YoozPay add-on. Now, YoozPay is our electronic payment add-on. It's going to provide your organization with the simplest and most flexible automated digital payment workflow. In order for you to pay your vendors, all you're going to need is their receivables email address. You'll also be able to generate cash back if your vendors accept credit cards. Now, in order to maximize the virtual card cashback, we're implementing strategies to memorize your vendor preference once they receive their first payment. Now, by doing this, it's going to provide a more efficient process for you and also for your vendors. A key thing to know about the virtual card option is that it's going to require the payments to be pre-funded for the batch amount on a custodial account. Now, this account is going to act as a buffer account that follows the virtual card to be funded in real time and also allow for instant payment. So to get started, we are going to impersonate Angela. Now, we impersonate Angela because the YoozPay add-on typically starts with the payment approval workflow. And just like any other steps in our platform, this workflow is also configurable. Payment approval steps are also optional if there's no need to short pay invoices. Now, Angela's task is to approve payment, and she can do that one or two ways. She can approve individually, or she can do a batch approval here. If she does a batch approval, the amount to be paid is set to the invoice total automatically, and she will still have the option to pay instantly or in bulk. But for demo purposes, we're going to process individually. So let's open up our first invoice, which will be the General Petroleum invoice. Now, as you can see, the screen looked the same as our other screens throughout the workflow, but Angela's screen now has a payment line down here at the bottom. And the invoice lines on the left, we can hide those, but we've left those in for demo purposes. Now back to the payment line. As you can see, the amount to pay is going to be the total amount on the invoice, $2,448. The payment method is defaulted to YoozPay. The payment debit account is mainly for reference when you want to rectify that with your accounting or ERP system. And there are a few other fields here that Angela could take a look at. But what we're going to do now is short pay this invoice. And in order to do that, we're going to change the amount to pay. You can also add a due date if you'd like, but for demo purposes, we're going to leave that blank. I do want to add a payment comment, and this is the comment that the vendor will see once they receive their payment email. So it provides the vendor with full visibility. Payment reference, date of payment, and the other fields are left blank, but they will be automatically populated once the payment has been processed by the APIs. Now, in order to short pay this invoice, all we need to do now is approve it. And once we approve it here, we're going to jump back to Angela's My Task screen. Now, she still has the option here to batch approve the rest of the invoices for payment here, and she can still choose if she wants to instantly pay those or do a bulk pay. Now, for demo purposes, we've set our payment process to instant. Now, this is going to be very rare because most of our clients like to have a payment batch that they can trigger manually or on an automated schedule. And when I say automated schedule, I'm talking about if they want to set it to pay daily, weekly, every other day, or anything in between. Now, if this is the case, the status will be wait for YoozPay to send payment. It is also important to know that having a batch payment will allow you to group multiple invoices per payment from the same vendor. So let's say, for instance, if you have 5 invoices from the same vendor, instead of sending 5 different payments, you'll have the option to send one payment for the 5 invoices. This is going to be one great benefit for batch payment versus instant payment. Now let's hop back over to Mario and take a look here. Now, as you can see, once payment has been triggered, the invoice moves to wait for payment. So now we're waiting for the vendor to take action. Once the vendor has chosen how they would like to receive their payment, the invoice status will change here in the Use platform. So now we're going to jump over to the vendor experience side. Here we've set up a demo email so we can show you how easy it is for the vendor to receive their payment. Now, I'm going to open our most recent email here, and this is what the vendor will receive as an electronic payment. Attached to this email is going to be a remittance advice in a PDF format. Once you open this, you can see the vendor information, you can see the payment date, and the payment amount. You can see the amount due and our payment comment here. Now, this is going to provide the vendor with more visibility throughout the process. Now, in order for the vendor to receive payment, all they would have to do is click here. And once they click here, the vendor has several options for payment. Now, as a part of our strategy, we're going to adjust the payment option based on what the vendor preferences are, because we're going to learn what the vendor wants. And for demo purposes, we've listed all 4 options. Here we have our ACH direct deposit. Now, this is where the vendor can input their banking information and receive their funds electronically. Print and deposit will generate a check in a PDF document that can be printed and deposited as a regular check via mobile app or bank teller. The Mail My Check will generate a paper check that will be printed and mailed the same day if it's before 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. After that, it will be mailed the next business day. Now, it usually takes about 7 to 14 business days, depending on the United States Postal Service, when the vendor will receive that check. The virtual card option, this is where the vendor will receive their funds on a virtual card, and this virtual card can be used anywhere. We truly want to maximize the conversion to VCC, so we'll offer the vendor only 2 of those payment options, the Mail My Check and the virtual card options, for their first payment. Then, based on their choice, we'll build a knowledge base of their payment methods to offer the best option going forward. If those 2 options don't work, then the other 2 options would appear. Now, this is going to conclude the vendor experience. So let's switch back over to our use platform. Now, once the payment has been processed and confirmed, the invoice moves to wait for ERP, export payment confirmation. Now, this is where Use will generate a flat file that can be downloaded, or an API call if available, that will mark their invoices as paid in your ERP. Now, we're not going to demonstrate that today, but that is going on behind the scenes. But after this step, if a payment is completed and the invoice balance is 0, the invoice moves to completed. If the payment is completed, but it was a short payment, so the invoice balance is greater than 0, the invoice goes back to approved payment. And this is where Angela will decide how she would like to move forward. If the payment is canceled or failed, the invoice goes back to approved payment as well. So basically, I've just demonstrated the YoozPay add-on, which features Use Purchase to Pay. This is an unmatched all-in-one solution that features payment approval workflows that provides full control and security. Digital payments that are fast and intuitive, that only requires the accounts receivable email for the vendor to receive their payment, and a virtual card that can generate recurring revenue for your organization. This is going to conclude our YoozPay add-on.